Hey, everybody, Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. Tonight, we have Rudy Nunez from Tactacam on the line, doing another one of these Zoom COVID crazy podcasts where I just get to make fun of John and wait for his reaction with a couple second lag. So, that's that's kind of what we're doing. We're going to talk a little bit about our relationship with Tactacam, what we're doing, how we've utilized them, what the plans are, some of the products coming out in the future. But first, let's talk to Rudy and hear a little bit about his story. He's got a pretty interesting story as far as the way that he's gotten into hunting and how he ended up with Tactacam and all of that. So, how you doing tonight, Rudy?
Hey, Adam and John and fans. I'm doing pretty good, man. Just down here in Southern Arizona trying to keep cool. And so far, the COVID thing hasn't really affected us too awful bad, but we're managing down here.
Yeah, rough place to be quarantined, right? We've had,
Yeah, it's not. Go ahead.
I'll say, we've had what 4 inches of rain in the last 2 days, and
Oh,
roads are flooded. And it goes from 70 degrees to 40 degrees to, I mean, it's just absurd. And then our governor shut down the whole world as far as everything. Can't do anything. Got to wear a
yeah.
mask everywhere. You can't. For a while, we couldn't use a boat. We couldn't do anything. So
Yeah,
we're
it's a tough place to be. Interesting, strange times right now, you know?
oh yeah, for sure. And you know, still not working from home, trying to hunt together as a
Yep.
group and film and all that stuff.
Right.
It's been interesting to say the least. But
Yeah, convoy of 4 trucks showing up at a small private spot to hunt turkeys is pretty crazy.
it's just all in a day's work for us. So so yeah, let's get a little bit of your story, Rudy. Like as far as you getting into hunting, your hunting style, and kind of the whole backstory on you.
Yeah, so, I grew up kind of doing the fishing thing. My dad wasn't really a big hunter, so I really didn't have anybody to guide me down that road. But when I was stationed out in North Carolina in the Army, and I ended up getting sustaining a pretty bad wrist injury, almost lost my right hand, and working with some wounded warrior groups and foundations and stuff, helping wounded warriors like go to that, you know, hunting, camping, hiking, doing that kind of thing, where they can kind of realign their spirit and stuff like that. I ended up coming in contact with a group called KWO. And what they would do is they would host Wounded Warriors. They do like a 3 day fishing, hunting slash archery deal. And a good buddy of mine named Kip, he said, "Hey man, we're gonna go ahead and get you a bow." I said, "No, don't worry about it, man. I'm just here to kind of enjoy the festivities, drink beer." And but he said, "No, we're gonna put a bow in your hand." He's like, "Look at these other guys with missing limbs, missing arms. Look at them. They're not saying no. They're not saying that they can't do it." So, really, that's what started it for me. That weekend, really dialed in my bow, took it back to Maryland where I was living at the time, and every night I was just shooting. And it really got obsessed with the stuff. So I ended up doing a lot of research online, and I think that was April, May, June, July, August. By September that year, I killed my first buck. So
I'd say you're well ahead of lots of people, myself included. Um, at that juncture, I didn't kill my first deer with a bow until I was 20, I think.
yeah,
And I'd been hunting, and one of the things that I like about this podcast is getting to talk to different people about how they've been brought up, and I personally, at least if I were to have a graph or been keeping track, it seems like the people that are older or adult onset hunters or whatever are more successful or more. I don't know. What would you think, John? I mean, we've talked to so many different
Well,
folks.
I think it's a different focus. I mean, once they get, like, as an adult getting into it, you get your mindset like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to figure out how to do this and do it right. Like when we started, I was 12, and my dad was like, all right, go sit in this tree stand and, you know, shoot at a deer when it comes by. But
Yeah, that was
for an adult to start, yeah, I think especially now with all the different resources. You know, we've got our podcast, got all these YouTube videos that help people. I mean, how did you go about putting your archery into the hunting situation? How did you go about?
Self-taught. Of course, I had some buddies down in Virginia that gave me some good pointers. Just spending time with them, and really a lot of videos, like you mentioned, and really that was really before the YouTube and the social media craze was real huge. But there was still good content out there.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that year, 2011, that's when I first started. I was 29 years old. I think I killed 4 or 5 deer that year between a couple different states, all archery. Tree stand stuff. So that's really how I got my start. I used to just keep my tree stand like bike chained in the back of my truck. And if I was driving through some of that rural country, I find something that wasn't private, man, I'd just hang stand 100 or 200 yards in and just learning things, Now I live in the Southwest and I had to relearn how to hunt mule deer, coos deer, long range stuff. So a lot of rifle work now, but that's actually how I got started filming, because watching all those YouTube videos and stuff really inspired me on wanting to document my hunt, film it. It's one thing to tell a story. It's another thing to show somebody a picture, but it's another thing to really bring them in that moment and say, check this out. Look at this bull scream. Look at the way that buck was rubbing right before, we let the air out of him. It's just, and I was using just a little 720 Sony cam. It was cumbersome. I was terrible. I made some cool stuff though back then. So
still working on that.
Yeah. It's funny because hunting's hard enough already, but adding that extra element of making sure that you're on target and you get it on camera. I hate to even say it, but there's times when I've let an animal walk because I wasn't sure if the shot was going to be on camera and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore. That's happened twice to me, and I said never again.
That cumbersome piece is John's the poster boy for that. He gets all my hand-me-downs, and then I say, take this and film with it, and he goes, wait, what? And then he's so funny because he gets so frustrated with things, and then I gotta talk him off the ledge sometimes.
Yeah, I've carried a muddy crow arm that's about 7 pounds for 3 years now. Mm-hmm. 3 seasons.
This will be the last season for that. I've already got something in store for you, John. I've got something to hand you down. Don't worry.
I'm about ready to make my own.
But so starting that journey and all of that, not being from, I guess, the hunting background and, the time frame prior to social media and all of that kind of thing. How did you end up with Tactacam? I think John will like this story, but how did you end up with Tactacam in the capacity that you are now? Because a lot of people would just say, well, I want to be in the hunting industry. I want to make money hunting. I want that to be my job. And, so we're talking to you adult onset hunter late in life, and then you end up, now you're working for a hunting company and talking to guys like us.
Right. Yeah. So, it all started back then. That's when the hook was set. Let's fast forward to 2017. I kind of put the filming and hunting thing, the filming thing down for a while because it was just too hard out here with the wrong equipment. And so anyway, I drew my first Arizona bull tag for archery. And I kept thinking, man, I cannot go on this hunt. I don't know if I'll ever get drawn again for a bull. So I said, I got to document this. So I got online, started researching this before I was ever affiliated with the company, and then ended up finding Tactacam. And I said, you know what, that looks like a cool camera. It's right in my price point. I was hoping to pay. And so I ended up buying it, going out that year, called 2 bulls in, one for my uncle, one for myself. So we doubled up that morning, about a half an hour apart. And documented most of that trip. So that bull walks in 35 yards, mid grunt. He's just draw back and just, put one right in the 10 ring and all on film. And so I ended up submitting that to Tactacam's website, just thinking, man, wouldn't that be cool if they run it like on the Facebook page or something? Then the communication director reaches back out to me and was like, man, that's one of the coolest videos I've seen. He was like, you ever thought about joining the, a team program or something like that? I said, I never thought about it, but I'll take a look. So that's how it all started, and there's a stigma with pro staffing and what guys' motives are for joining companies. Is it free gear? Is it because one day they want to have a show? I think everybody kind of, once you lose that notion that you're going to be successful and hunt for a living, it starts to go into perspective. So you start to just say, okay, I'm going to start little, start a little Instagram page, little YouTube page, that sort of stuff. Just document what you do, put it online. Some people are going to like it. Some people aren't going to like it. But I was working hard for the company, and I really enjoy the company. It's a great team, small company, still small enough to care. And one day I ended up getting a call from the CEO, said, hey, we're opening up kind of a different marketing position for the film through scope system. You're out there in Arizona, you're in the West, you do the long range, some long range shooting, you do the desert hunting, we think you'd be a good fit. And really the stars aligned. So I wouldn't say that my story is typical, but, I could tell you that just never let, always stuck to it. And just the main thing was that hunting state of passion, and that I always try to improve myself and surround myself with people that would make me better.
Yeah, so for us, myself, I don't know, probably for the last, it's so hard because now with having the podcast, it seems like doesn't it seem like we've been doing this forever, John? Or we just started like somewhere in the middle there?
Yeah.
Like the last 2 years have just like whizzed by. Like this is just like normal now.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out like when I started to try to film was kind, and it wasn't like I'm going to have a show or anything like that, but I think with the podcast, I don't know if this is more of like a controlled environment. So to retell your story and have it to be to be able to, I guess, go back to it or whatever, share it with people is another way to do that. But so trying to film hunts has probably been like 3 or 4 years now, and I suck at it. I mean, after 4 years, 5 years, now, however long it is, like I'm getting better, and I feel like we're really making some strides, getting some kills on film, and getting some cool video. And I think that that's one of the more fun things about it is like it doesn't have to be like a kill. You could. I mean, we've seen, bobcats and foxes and all sorts of cool stuff that like you said, like you can tell somebody or you can show them like how really cool like the experience was. But we've tried and the frustration sets in, and then you don't want to bring the camera, or you don't turn it on, or you're burnt out and you don't do that. So we tried that for like I tried it for a couple years. Then we started the podcast. I gave John cameras and said, all right, we're going to do this. Try to get my father-in-law and his hunting partner on board. Yeah, they were going to do it. Never picked up a camera, never did anything the first year, nothing. And they're the ones, I mean, that hunt. They're retired, so they hunt more than anybody. They hunt, they fish, they do everything. And it's like, if you guys, and they're freaking hilarious. They're like two old women that bicker back and forth. So to be able to get them to kind of capture that, we tried and tried and tried. Last year they filmed a hunt where they missed a turkey. All of our
we started
yeah,
we started filming with Adam's first season, and I was actually filming it the day of the situation, and I ended up losing the glove. And I'm like, we had some birds going. I'm like, all right, you guys, we're gonna move up to the next ridge. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go find my glove before I can't find it. And so they start heading off. Well, I gave the camera to Ernie, and so needless to say, I went. By the time I got back to that spot, they had already moved up, and the bird was on them. And end up hearing Adam shoot, and then I hear some more calling, and the bird's still gobbling and everything. So apparently Adam missed, but then we all meet back up at the truck later, and Ernie's like, "Oh yeah, I got it all on film." No, there was like 20 minutes of footage, and there was like 20 seconds of bird. Most of it was like zoomed in on a tree, and it was just that was like the beginning of
But
their.
yeah,
Well, we still experience that too, because just this last mule deer season, my wife was out. We were sitting in a water hole in Arizona. She had the Tactacam, FTS, and everything hooked up. We had some wide angles. I'm sitting there with her for hours and hours and hours, from dark until like 11 a.m., maybe like 12 p.m. I get up finally to go take a leak, walk behind the berm, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there, boom, and like my wife, I zip up, run back, and my wife's like, "There was a buck. I think I shot it," And so the funny thing is that one moment I stepped away, the buck walks in. She has like 2 seconds to make a decision. She ended up missing the buck, but we luckily we got it on film. She hasn't let me post it yet because Tactacam films the misses too. But it's one of those things where, man, it always happens that way. Your cameraman's not in the right place, or funny angles and stuff like that. So it can be a challenge.
well, so these guys, I've been planting the seed in their head for years. All this time we're doing the podcast, everything. I'm saying, like, you guys need to do this. You guys need to do this. So then they get the camera, the two of them, and they film this debacle of a miss. And the camera turns on. They got pre-roll and after effect, but the camera turns on. Phew, the arrow goes, and it's shoots him right through the tail feathers, and the turkey's still standing there. He broke John's cardinal rule of have another arrow ready. While they're fumbling around, the turkey takes off, and so that kind of got, once I posted that video, they kind of got like, oh man, but I'm not carrying a camera arm, blah 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 blah. So this last year, they did this giant tour. The one guy retired, the other guy, Frank's been retired, so they hunted Missouri for, I think they were there for 10 days, and then they did a 7-day hunt in Nebraska. And so, yeah, we're going to film it, this, that, and the other thing. Nothing. No cameras, no anything, never turned on anything. One of the guys down there had a Tactacam and ended up shooting this deer poorly. And they got to review the footage. The guy's like, I think I hit him. It was good. It was the last rib. They put it up on the big screen from the Tactacam footage. Nope, shot him in the guts. So my father-in-law missed, like, there's lots of deer stories, and they're always huge or whatever. But my father-in-law and the outfitter claim that this was a booner that he missed. Like, it was like a 12-point, big, he's been hunting, 60 years, 55 years. Biggest deer he's ever seen. Blows a chip shot at 25 yards. No video whatsoever to show for it. And now they've got this experience with this Tactacam, and like, oh, how cool is that? They come back and they're like, we got to get Tactacams. It's going to be the greatest thing, And so I'm like, okay, whatever. We can do that. Because I just want them to film, That's my motivation. So if I can get you guys to start doing this, great. So we end up at ATA, and John and I do our thing. We see our friends. We go and we had some podcasts and some, companies, whatever, to talk to. And one of the guys from Tethered, we were sitting there talking, and he is saying, oh, they get to talk to my father-in-law. He's a talker, Frank. And so he's like, I got all these Tactacams. I run 5 of them. You need the 5s. And so while we're doing our stuff, these guys spent hours at the Tactacam booth, picking their brains, talking to everybody. Right. And so then John and I went back over there, and we got whatever information we needed, but we also got beer. And I think that's one of the things that
you weren't supposed to say that, by the way.
It was from the booth around the corner. It was this giant Grizzly cooler of beer, and it
Nice
must have been
plug.
Grizzly.
Yeah. No, it's just a caveat on that, man. I ended up not going to ATA. This was actually my first show season, actually being an employee. So I kind of worked all the West Coast shows. Did get to go to SHOT Show and a couple other ones like the Western Hunter. But man, I heard ATA this year was pretty darn good. So
You know, it's hard for us because what ends up happening is I feel like we fall into like a niche where we are not really gimmicky type stuff, and so there's a lot of like redone, respun, new camo pattern, or just like little tweaks or things like that. And so I wouldn't say that we've got like a full on complete system and we've got it figured out, but it's definitely getting to the point where like I know what I like and I know what I'm going to do. And so I really feel, we go there and it's really about more of seeing our friends than it is,
right.
like seeing the products to like some degree. I mean, John, what do you think? I mean, so what's funny, I'm obviously, if you go back through the however long we've been talking, it's been me talking, me saying, "Hey, John, what do you think about this?" When you get John at ATA with people that are like-minded and that like are nerd out about archery stuff, because like John is like, I don't know, John's like a B plus student when you get into the floor at ATA. Like there's like some freaking real super archery nerds there. And so like John's asking questions, and they're going back and forth, and it's really interesting to see. So, I mean, what do you think, John? Do you go there and do you think that there's like cool stuff or like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, like our first year, yeah, that was like we're just going to check everything out and see all the people, and then now then like this year is more about meeting back up with the people that we've met in the past, and kind of catching up and then having some beers with them, and then there's a few things that I guess that that are new that come out there, but for the most part, like bows and everything they're already been out.
Right.
There's like no new releases really, except for this year was obviously with Dudley going to PSC last minute, and they released the NTN bow. But yeah, I think it's more of just kind of catching up and getting to meet people that we've talked to face to face. That's another big thing too. That
yeah. And
really going.
and shoring up those relationships that you've made, kind of circling back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my show experience this year too, being my first one. The SHOT Show is a different beast. There's 3 or 4 floors, and you can't. I mean, you have to every day dedicate to a floor if you want to see everything. I was in the booth most of the time, but luckily at some of these other shows, I had a chance to get out and network. And part of what I do is marketing and going out, shaking hands, and marketing myself. Because if I call on somebody and say, "Hey, I'd like to collaborate with you," I'm very new to this game, very new in this industry on this end. And it's like, just trying to build a little bit of credibility and rapport with people. But like you said, John, it's like, instead of going out there wide-eyed and looking at everything, now you have like strategic destinations and meetings you're doing and people you're linking up with. So I'm really looking forward to next year's show season.
Yeah. Yeah. So we go over there and, get all the details on the Tactacam and whatever. And then so we get back and they're like on me, like, "Hey, so what about the Tactacam? Hey. I'm like, "All right, guys, calm down. Like, if you're going to use them, we'll figure something out." So, I reached out to a few people and then I ended up talking to Rudy here, and he says, yeah, I think we can do something with you. So, that's kind of where we're at. We've killed 2 turkeys already on camera, and use the Tactacams. We were using them more on like B-roll use. Simply because we were hunting in a blind, and so John had one on his stabilizer, and the video that we got from that was just the inside of the blind. You know, it wasn't up above the window. But Ernie had one on his head. We had one pointed at Frank. We had one, and while he's calling, that's actually pretty cool. He's in the full ghillie headdress, so he looks kind of like Hagrid from Harry Potter, if you're familiar.
Yeah, I got a little nerd in me too.
But yeah, so when we got a hold of you, there is like kind of when all this stuff was going crazy with China and everything. So your supply line has kind of been like, you know, because I've been trying like feverishly, like no matter where, to get one of the wide angle cameras, because I think probably the best setup, and especially the best setup for those guys, is going to be a wide angle above them and one on their bow or on their head, so that they can capture whatever, and then it works with the remote. So let's talk about the different products and like kind of like what you guys are experiencing, when we can, you know, kind of get back into some semblance of normalcy, product, all this stuff that you guys probably have to have a meeting every morning about.
You know, it's no different, man. Every company's kind of feeling the crunch one way or another. It's interesting that you brought up the wide angles, though, and the different filming styles, because the cool thing about Tactacam is that you could either run it as a primary or you could run it as some really cool supplementary, get those angles. And I think we're really doing a good job of educating people that want to film and stuff, just how versatile it is to have 2 or 3 wide angles if you have the luxury of having a couple. And so, like you said, you can run the 5.0s up to 5.0s with one remote. And so the 5.0, if some of your listeners have never even seen our product line, we're a 6-year-old company. Our cameras have come a long way in those 6 years. So now we're true 4K, image stabilization, boring details. Frame rates are adjustable, and mounts to almost anything that you can put it on. And we design and fabricate our own mounts. So one of the most important thing is, if you're going to film, I mean, you want to mount to your weapon system. The best camera in the world is worth nothing if it doesn't do that securely. So that's one of the issues people always report. There's not good mounting hardware out there. Or we use another camera, and it really gives you that fisheye bubble effect. So that bird at 20 yards actually looks like 100 yards away. So those are a few of the key features that we tried to correct, and have done a real good job with that. The Tactacam can go from 3 to 8 times zoom with just a simple press of the button. And so, how you said your father, who was it that the older fellas that were hunting?
Yeah,
with the Tactacams now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How are they doing with that? I mean, because you always hear from some older guys, it's like, well, I'm not very techy, and well, you don't have to be. You mount it, you press one button, it records. Let your grandson edit the video or something, you know.
Yeah, like
the stuff is stupid simple.
So that hunt, well, both the hunts that we've had success on, and the one is up on our YouTube. There was 4 different cameras on that. So when you give it away to edit to somebody, it's like, come on, like, are you kidding me? But yes, so for them, like, we've got it set up, and you know, they don't understand like how anything works, you know. So there was a big thing of, okay, you have to hook up to the Wi-Fi of the camera, and they have to hook up. And so John is the one that was dealing with the Tactacams at first, so he hooked up the remotes and got that situated, and then to the phone, you know, they're in the app trying to hook up to the Wi-Fi, and I'm like, no, you have to go into the Wi-Fi on your phone. It's like, I need like a laminated card that says
right,
step 1, step 2.
Yeah.
But like I said, I told him, like, straight away, I'm like, unless you're trying to see what that camera is looking at, don't mess with the app. Don't mess with anything. Just hit the button and look on there and see if the numbers start moving. If the numbers start moving, something is recording. So like last year, you got nothing. So something is going to be better than nothing, and then
Right.
we'll go from there. And I honestly, like, for those guys, however they want to get them set up and however we figure out what's going to be the best way to do it. So one of the podcasts that we listen to, guys that we've had on here and talked to them in person, whatever, but are the Redneck Tech podcast guys, and they are Copeland Creative, and it's Caleb Copeland. They film for these big outfits, the red cameras, $20,000, $30,000 cameras, and all the stuff. But one of the things that he always talks about is running a point of view camera or a DSLR in their world as a safety angle. So something where you're going to know that it's recording and it's going to catch something if everything else fails. And so for those guys, I still feel like even like a Tactacam Solo or something on their bow, like where it's tactile, like they push the button and it turns on, and you don't have to worry, did the remote click on the cameras that are every which way? Something like that, because you can, while you're editing, weave a story around whatever you got right there. I mean, we talked about, Frank's deer. If he would have had just even like 40 seconds of, the deer, the shot, the miss, you can do a cheesy, not in the real moment interview style, like what happened here, and you can make a story around something. And I'm sure we've all seen bad outdoor channel shows that are like that. They've got no more than a few minutes worth of footage, and then the rest of it is all the BS filler and stuff like that. But yeah, so for those guys, Frank, when he was calling, he's running a full video camera with a remote and reaching over and turning on the Tactacam, looking at it, talking over here, calling, going back and forth. And after, like I said, after last year's hunt, they were pretty pumped up about it and being able to see like what they got and being able to share that. And so now, I mean, he came back, and that day was cool because we came back, watched all the videos. John and I went out and hunted, and we were all set up with turkeys 30 feet above us, and that's how close we got. See, I love the reactions, like
a little too close to the roost tree.
but so we video that one. They video it, and they're all pumped to show us all these different angles, and they want to see it from every which way. And then we all go 4 trucks deep, and you talk about like what happened with you and your wife. When John killed his turkey, he's in one tent. I'm in a tent next to him. Frank's 10 yards behind us, and then his buddy Ernie is 5 yards to the right of him, and basically the turkeys ran right past them. And so trying to get that shot on 3 different turkeys in on the decoys, trying to figure out which one John's going to try and shoot at and all this stuff. I mean, those safety angles could have been key. We coordinated it and got it on the big camera, but I mean, and those guys are like just ecstatic because they've got something to show for, what, for the last 4 years that they think that they've been doing, but which actually John and I have been trying to video stuff, and they've been saying they're going to.
Yeah, and they actually had 1 or 2 of the Tactacams with them and behind us, but then they're like, they forgot to turn them on, or they didn't turn them on. Something happened.
But yeah, and so you were asking like about how they're working, So the question, so Frank killed a turkey on Tuesday, and they had the Tactacams, and this is part of it is John and I's fault. So it's our fault because we we're not very good at filming, and now we've got good footage. We've got good video. So I dumped it on my external hard drive. I gave the cards to John to dump onto his computer, but we never cleaned them because we were like still nervous. And so the cards filled up, and then those guys are fiddle fumbling around saying, "How do I get all this stuff off of here? It's just buzzing. These are I don't understand. Like, what's going on?"
Well, yeah, well, on the last day that Frank and I hunted, he's got the Tactacams. He's got two of them, one in the tent with him and one outside shooting. And I'm sitting outside calling and filming with the big camera. And I'm like, and we had a big bird come in and just ended up coming in. It was only like 10 paces from me to my left, but Frank couldn't see it in the tent. So I'm trying to film, and anyway, after the bird goes back out and we keep calling it, and it was like a 40-minute deal. Well, finally I'm like, I can hear Frank's phone vibrating. I'm like, Frank, turn your freaking phone off.
Who's calling you?
He's like, and then but he ends up getting on his phone and he's like, there ain't no one calling me. He's like, Adam called earlier. I'm like, well, turn that damn thing on. Well, then come to find out, it was the Tactacams because the cards were full and they were like,
Yep.
He's like, then he was like, I can't get this thing to turn on. I'm like, well, we'll deal with it when we get back to the house, and then he's like, I figured out he's like, it wasn't my phone vibrating, it was the Tactacams.
Yeah. So
those 128 gigabytes are the best bang for your buck, man. You can fill up a 32 pretty quick, especially if you're running in 4K.
Yeah, so we've got and these
64.
Yeah, I got 64s because we've got a solo also, and I think it'll only go up to 64. So I just bought one that'll run in all of them because I was like, I don't know where these guys are going to land, how many cameras they're going to have, what they're going to want, So, and again, they're asking me about this stuff, and it's like I got it, it's okay, I've but. Like, well, what ones do we order? And I'm like, don't even try, because if you don't get the correct right speed and all that stuff, you're going to end up with nothing. And right. I don't want that. Yeah.
But altogether, not too sharp of a learning curve.
No. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Once we got him to like, all right, push the button. Like Ernie is he's a little more savvy than Frank. So he hooked up to the phone and he was testing the head, and he actually got, he got the shot on camera on his head cam. But then he moved a little bit, and that being in the tent, like for bow hunting, for, like whitetail hunting, it's going to be perfect for those guys.
Yeah, I'll tell you the hardest thing to teach and the hardest thing to learn is to make a great video with POV camera is you want to get that animal walking in, the shot, and of course the flop or, the runoff, the die. So the hardest thing to teach is staying on after the shot. You got emotions going, you're pumped, adrenaline, you're cheering. And then of course archers that always learn to, they have that good follow through. It takes practice. So like the number one thing I would say to people who are doing POV filming weapon mounted is just don't wait till the night before your hunt to try to hook that system up and then take it out the next day. It's just like your rifles, just like your bow. Mount it, get out there, film, go back at home into your computer and watch it. Because you'll learn things, It's also a teaching tool.
And see, like Adam was saying, I had the Tactacams. I had it all set up on my bow, and I actually went out and I have a bunch of test films in my yard, in the tent, but then I didn't take into consideration, like when we were out, when I killed my bird, I mean, I had my camera on and, got the footage, but I was sitting a little bit lower, like the layout of the ground, and so the camera was like right at the edge of the window. And so it was just, and then I did the same thing. I ended up taking 2 shots at the bird. And then at that point, I was like so hyped up. And then I was like, oh, the camera's still rolling. So then I picked it up and I'm like pointing my bow out the window and trying to get some footage. I'm like talking to it.
Right.
But so
Yeah.
there's some of it will be salvaged, but we like
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about, just filming in general. I mean, no matter what you use, I think one of the hardest things to capture for people to produce is to capture that experience, capture the emotion. Because, kill shot. Yeah, you'll get some views and people will like it, but I think nowadays people are thirsting for content and more just more personality in those productions and stuff. And you see like a lot of social influencers or social media guys that do it real well, really take you on that journey and you feel like you're part of their hunt, you're part of their life. There's the kids running in the backyard on Friday and Sunday afternoon we got, big elk on the ground or something. And those are the kind of stories that I think for me, I'm okay at editing. I'm very new at it. But like you said earlier, Adam, once you got 4 or 5 cameras rolling and you're like, man, I got some great footage. Now you got to go back and sort it and timeline it and all that stuff. I think that's kind of where some people get hung up too. But the elk hunt that I did in 2017, I did a 13 or 18-minute video on it or something like that. And I did it with one 4.0. And just like you were saying, John, talking to it, getting some B-roll, morning coyotes and all that kind of stuff. And it came out to be a pretty darn good video. So not to scare people off and say you have to have 5 or 10 cameras to make a good production. Just get creative, start filming on the way into the hunt, on the way out, that kind of stuff. And I tell you, once you start doing it and editing it, it's going to start flowing pretty well. Who does your guys' editing?
I do everything.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, Adam dropped off a computer to my house, and it's got like 8 terabytes of hard drive memory, but the graphics card is just a little bit dated and actually. And I downloaded the DaVinci Resolve, and actually I can't even now. I tried getting in it, and I edited like a perch video, a cooking video I did, and after that, I don't know what happened, if it's ate up all the memory, internal memory of that or what, but I can't even, I'm going to have to delete it and re-download it, I guess.
Right.
Do some work on this computer.
So this is totally what happens is I give John all this old stuff and say, go ahead and
try it out.
Make it work. I know you can do it. And I know that John will be a great editor if he doesn't implode, because for the amount of editing that sounds like that you've done, and for me, and especially when I was starting out, like I get all the way through like my timeline, and then like something would happen and I'd lose like half of it, and it's like I just spent 3 hours. Funny story. Like I haven't posted it yet. I posted it in our Patreon group, but I edited this video of Frank in his Hagrid suit, so it looks like he's dancing, because he's telling the story very animated and back and forth. And I edited it to music, so it looks like he's dancing. I think it's 16 seconds, and I think it took me 45 minutes to edit.
Right.
To get, but it's pretty funny. But and it's those types of things where if you've got a short fuse or a temper, that the computer will not fare very well, John.
Yeah. Well, like the computer I'm working on right now, it's been through a lot. The old CD drive won't even open because I punched it. So I've lost my temper a little bit.
So this, we didn't talk about this before, and we are not your guys. We are not volunteering for this or saying that we could do it well. But John and I have talked, so I don't know if at the SHOT Show or any of the shows that you've been at, they have a film festival. But Badlands does a film festival. And John and I have talked about a bunch of cool ideas, because a lot of the videos, and we're probably jaded, like I said, because of talking with Caleb and getting his very, very, very jaded take on the Badlands Film Festival. A lot of the videos that are in there are very similar, or they fit a certain mold. They got to pull at your heartstrings. They got to do this. They got to do that. It's got to have all this cinematic stuff. It's got to look a certain way. Personally, I think one of the coolest things to do would be to shoot the whole thing with a single camera. Like my idea, or what I think someone would do, would you could show like some incredible creativity or something, is if you were able to shoot it with your phone, because that's something that everybody has, so something that would, you could do that. But like what you're saying is, if you had the ability to shoot an entire film like that with a Tactacam, with you know, I don't know, going through the line, and I'd like you to kind of go through and talk about like, what you guys offer in the different cameras. But because some of them have, minimum zoom, like you can't get just to like a one power. So some of your shots might be difficult and you'd have to become extremely creative. But I think that would be really cool to see somebody take something that isn't, like I said, a $20,000 camera or something like that, and to be able to create something
very raw.
Not well. I mean, if it was raw, then you might lose the point of the thing. If you were to shoot something like somewhat incredible and do it just out of creativity, just from the shot angles and the way that you could frame it, and I think you could do that with some of the 4K stuff, because you could get your landscape and you could crop it however you'd want, and it'd still be good enough. But I think that would be pretty cool. But going into that, so what are the different Tactacams that are available right now, and what are their like? You talked about frame rate, magnification, stuff like that. Is it adjustable, etc.?
Yeah, so our entry level camera is the Solo. That's going to be your beginner's camera. Very, very cost effective. I think you can get the camera and 3 mounts for like $149. You find them at Walmart and stuff. Now it doesn't have, it has Wi-Fi, but it doesn't have zoom or any image stabilization or anything like that. Doesn't make it a bad camera though. As a matter of fact, that's one of our best sellers. The 4.0 was discontinued last year, but you could still find them on the market. 4.0 had 3 to 5 times zoom, didn't have image stabilization, wasn't Wi-Fi compatible. And then our 5.0, which is our flagship camera, which we released in 2018. So it's still our number one camera. That is, again, 4K, 3 to 8 times zoom, image stabilization, has all the bells and whistles that you're going to want. We actually, matter of fact, it's live. They are live streaming capability. They have the technology, but Facebook shut us down. They kind of put us in the gun category. So, you're not able to live stream right now. So we're currently looking for another platform to kind of be effective on there. But just a very smart camera. So those are our 3 camera options. And of course we have a wide angle as well. So our wide angle is 170 degrees, has some zoom capability. And that's really what we use for like the selfie stuff, inside the blind, on the tree over your shoulder, really getting those angles to kind of build depth and add layers to your production. But I think really what changed the game last year, I guess it was this time last year, was our film through scope system. So up until then, it was a lot of shotgun, crossbow, direct mounting. But when we built that film through scope system, it allowed you to attach it securely to the eyepiece of your scope, now film out in 4K to 1,000 yards or beyond. Now there's some other stuff out there, and they have different mounting options. But once you mount the FTS, it's not going anywhere. So you got your Western guys who are like mountain hunters. They're rough on their gear and stuff. It's not like you're going to, take a fall and bump that thing out of zero. So it's very durable, and you can still use the digital zoom. So like we have guys that are shooting out to like 1,500 yards or beyond with that system.
And so with that, is it, are you able to hook that up? Because the next question is going to be, can you hook that up to your spotting scope or something like that, so that you could, you don't have to be pointing a weapon at, wherever, if it's off season or,
Yeah, so that one doesn't work with a spotting scope. the good news is this year, come June, hopefully June, if we're on schedule, we're releasing a 4K spotting scope camera called the Spotter LR, and it's going to be its own individual unit. Comes with a couple different sizing collars, and it's just a quick snap design. Has an LCD screen. In fact, it's going to replace, having to sacrifice your phone using other type of mounts, but it's a very small unit, very light. Don't know if this one has charged batteries, but this one has four time digital zoom, and it's just a quick snap design. So once you're out there, you get on that bull or your target, you just quick snap it in, and there's no messing with like the eye release or anything like that. Just do a quick focus, and now you're recording in 4K. So that's a product that we have coming out this summer, as well as a fishing camera. So really, like, you talk about Tactacam, what we're trying to do is we want to be the one-stop shop for preseason, season, postseason, and everything in between with our product line. And we're getting pretty close to having the whole year just, covering all seasons. So
Now, I know John was pretty excited about the fishing camera when we were at ATA, and then when I started talking to you, it was like, and that's one of the unfortunate things I feel like with ATA and going is like it gets your hopes up for a lot of stuff that's not quite ready yet,
Right.
So what's the fishing camera? What's that? This is the fish eye, right, or something like that?
It's the fisheye. Yeah. So your Tactacams are weather resistant. They're IP66 rated. So, anything that you care to hunt in, no problem, but you just can't submerge them. So this fishing camera we have coming out is rated down to 30 feet. It's going to come with an adjustable lens, 90, 120, and 170 degrees. It's going to have a loop feature. So you can just be fishing all day. You can hook external power to it. As soon as you bust a bass or something, then you mark it on your camera, and it's just going to save that segment. You're not going to worry about burning, having 10 or 15 SD cards with you, because it's going to be really efficient, for those all day, sits and stuff. So.
That's cool. Will that one, will that hook up to like Wi-Fi also then?
That's going to have Wi-Fi. It has its own app. And actually, matter of fact, we just launched the social media page, maybe about a week ago or something. I think internally the official launch was on Tuesday. Although we did give sneak peeks, throughout the year. And so we're really excited about that. And then the Spotter LR is going to be coming out late June. So it's really busy summer for us. We really appreciate all the support, man. We just had a lot, our Facebook page is going crazy. Our Instagram is going crazy. We're getting a lot of guys that are just really starting to believe in the brand and, say, hey, Tactacam supports outdoors. Last year we raised $500,000 for NWTF alone. So we do a lot of conservation work and stuff like that. And we want to be your camera. We want you guys to trust us as a business. And not only that, the product's outstanding. So.
One question, like when I hooked up to the app, there was a couple times where it like kind of froze up. I don't know if I ended up having to take the battery out. Are you guys working on like an update or maybe I missed it? But it seemed like there was a couple glitches in the app.
Yeah, just like your phone does an update, periodically. If you go into that app and you just, you can do the firmware update, through the Wi-Fi. We recommend doing that, periodically. Usually on Tactacam.com, we'll tell you when a new firmware, an update comes out. But first thing I do, like if I get a new one in the mail, when I order them, I'll just run a firmware update right then and there just to make sure. And then of course, like you mentioned earlier, making sure you have the right SD card. When you're working with 4K files, you have to have, a high class micro SD. So we recommend the ones that class 10 or better. I always say at least shoot for 100, megabytes per second or better, but make sure that it has a U3 symbol on it. That way you're going to ensure it's going to be able to handle that big of a load. So The number one customer service complaint we get for like any type of malfunctions is because of using inferior SD cards.
And that might have been because I might have one of the older cards when I was in there testing. And that was like I was trying to do the feedback or whatever, and then it kind of froze up. So
mm-hmm.
That might have been.
Well, and then with the app, you could always sometimes, if there's any issues with like the pairability, I just unpair and then pair back again. Just like my headset or my Bluetooth speaker or something. Sometimes I just got to go through that cycle again. So.
Yeah, I am like I mean, what I outlined, for Frank and like that safety angle and just being able to just hit the button. Like I am young. I'm a younger person, but I hate like technology. Like my wife's car that I got is like, when we went and got it, I was like, I don't want any bells and whistles. I want nothing that's going to go wrong that I have to fix. That I'm going to have to say, honey, what's this light? Why does my seat move? And so that's kind of like what I feel about like connecting with the apps and like stuff like that. One of the things I like about the Tactacam is you push the button and it buzzes. John, I mean, you can turn that off. You can turn off the lights and stuff like that. But for like, especially for Frank and those guys, is like you push the button, it starts blinking. You get something that's tactile that shows that it's actually going. I like the light that's blinking in that regard because you know that, oh shit, it's still on, right? Like John, like oh. But messing with the apps and all of that stuff is like, I've messed up enough filming to know that like you got to hit record, and when you think you hit record you didn't, and all of those sorts of things, and then trying to translate that to, not that that we're experts or by any means, but to people that are just starting out, it's like, oh my god, like I got everything. Like, okay, well, we'll find out.
If you're not worried about frame rates or anything like that, you can probably go 2 or 3 seasons and never even sync to that app. Because you could just take that SD card out or just use that, USB port right into your computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because with the 5.0, if you want to start messing with the frame rates, then you have to do that through the app.
Yeah, and for your tech savvy guys out there, we do 15 frames at 4K is really good in low light situation, and you can preset those 3 modes to whatever, customize them. But we go 15, 30, 60, 120, and 240 frames per second. So there's a little bit of everything. You have obviously your low light, your highlights, and then depending on the movie quality that you want, or if you're doing winged game and stuff like that, you probably want a little bit faster frame rates, and so you're not getting that blur, that lag. So there's a lot of things that you can adjust. It's got some advanced features to meet a lot of needs. So.
Now, am I understanding you right? That you can you adjust that on your computer if you hooked it up through the USB?
No, that one, for that you'll have to go through the app. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, okay, well those guys can figure that out. I know that. Like, that would be great. Yeah, so like I said, I'm excited to see what this whitetail season brings. Like I said, I don't know. I think last year was awesome in the fact that, we did a lot of video. We had a lot of opportunities. We got, a bunch of cool videos and stuff like that. And this year for turkey season has just been amazing as far as like what we've been able to capture on video, let alone, shooting these birds. I mean,
right.
John, that first morning I got the birds flying down out of the tree in the dark, and John's, I don't know, was that one of your more exciting hunts, the one with Frank when that bird was 10 steps away?
Oh man, well, that was 10 times more exciting than my hunt when I killed my bird. Like, I'm sitting outside the blind, and I just have a little cloth, one of them pop-up stake blinds, and it barely came up to my waist, and I'm sitting up against the blind. So, and these birds come in, And like I said, 10 paces from and he's sitting there strutting and drumming, and I'm like, he can hear me breathe. I swear, like the camera, you can hear the camera. I'm sure you can hear me like Frank, do you see these birds? And he couldn't hear me, but they never. And I'm wearing my hack suit though. I did have my hack suit on, so I swear to that. I mean, because I'm sitting out literally in the open, and I was turning my head a little bit, and I had a hat on, so there was definitely more movement than I've had them bust me 100 yards away, and just by moving my hand, back when we used to hunt with guns and stuff, running a gun and getting against a tree, and here I'm sitting, probably 8 yards from this bird, out in the open in a chair, and I'm like moving the camera on him, and he came in, and then with 3 jakes, and then a hen come from the other way, and that's the bird that Frank seen. He's like, you didn't see the other birds? Well, until they circled out and got out in front of us by where the hen came in at, then he seen them, but they're at like 40 yards at that point. So I was definitely pumped up on that.
And
yeah, Mike and Hex team are using Tactacams this year, so we are really excited about seeing some real close-up stuff out of them. They've already been posting some stuff so far, and some second-angle stuff at the decoys, and just having fun with it. And we've talked a lot of tech, we talked a lot of ins and outs. It's just fun. If you're not having fun, it's not worth it. But to me, there's nothing better than obviously hunting one, but second, going out and getting that footage, man. It just makes it that much more rewarding.
Now on the 5, it's got image stabilization. Is there a setting or a frame rate that's best for that, or is it? Which one does it work best on?
So the image stave is going to work best with all your frame rate settings. That's going to be for your shotgun, your bow, anything. But when you're using the 5.0 inside the FTS housing, you want to turn that image stabilization off. Otherwise, through the scope, you'll see like a reticle float is what we call it.
Okay.
That's just the image stabilization trying to compensate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a couple ins and outs, but you guys, you said you're going to be using on crossbow here soon, possibly to get that FTS system going.
Yep.
Oh man, that's going to be cool.
Yep. So a crossbow and a shotgun. I mean, my wife, she's like, you can't film me. I'm not going to be using a bow. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, she doesn't even own a bow, so just getting her out there and hunting, and turkey hunting is the greatest gateway drug to hunting, and it's not, it's so funny because my wife grew up in a household with Frank and wasn't excited or invited, I guess, to go hunting, and so it's a thing to go and do with her dad. And she's like, I could never shoot a deer, but I don't mind shooting turkeys. And but there's a lot of breakfast pizza and all sorts.
Especially now that she's seen the tent.
Yeah, she's
have her coffee and snacks in the tent.
Yeah, so when we started turkey hunting, there was no blind, no anything. Everything was run and gun. Everything was, and so I think I learned a lot bringing my wife hunting about how to hunt with a kid. Just in a sense, I was like really hard on my wife. I was like, stop moving. Like you can't be doing that. You can't be doing this. And it somewhat sucked the fun out of it, and she's like, I don't want to go, I don't care if I shoot a turkey or not. And she did. She's killed a turkey before, but, and she's been there when I've shot turkeys, hunting with us too. But now that I've got my daughter, and like since we started bow hunting, and it's like we get in these tents, and it's like you can do whatever you want to. John was eating a sandwich right before he shot his this year with a bow, so it's not like, And my wife was like, you can have coffee and you can just sit there. Like I'll totally go turkey hunting. So it'll be interesting to see.
You guys draw any elk tags this year?
Yeah, I got my general tag for Montana.
Yep. And,
Good.
and the plan is, so myself, Frank, and Ernie we're all headed to Colorado. So,
Good.
assuming that travel is allowed by September. But
Yeah, I'll be in Colorado archery in September, I believe, or maybe Idaho, but you can't mount cameras or anything electronic on your firearm platforms in Idaho. So I'm gonna have to get real creative with head mounts and stuff like that. And then I ended up drawing drawing a New Mexico rifle tag in October up in Unit 51. So I'm really excited about that.
yeah, it sounds like that's going to be. I mean, my dad hunts with a rifle still, and he's killed a couple elk with a rifle, and it's like I don't know, kind of like my thought process with a lot of the stuff that we do is, maybe you got to get a couple under your belt, and but he has not had the rifle the elk hunt that John and I had when we weren't successful. I mean,
Right.
to go out there and be, you know, in a shouting match with the elk, and then trying to figure it out. And, it's just like, I mean, that's what gets us with the bows is I feel like every animal that I see with the rifle, I could kill it. I mean, and that's obviously not true. I've missed deer, multiple times, and things don't ever go right. But it seems like with a bow, I mean, like our turkey hunt from last year, everything can go right, and then you can still mess it up. And I think that's what keeps us coming back is that love hate frustration
Right.
type type scenario. So as
Yeah,
far
and I
as
could talk. I'm sorry. I could talk elk all night, so we're gonna try to save that one for another. You guys, it sounds like you guys got bird brains, man. I've never killed a turkey, but dude, after that elk I killed in 2017, I'm like, man, I'm 38 now. How many good elk years do I have left in me?
Oh,
Maybe 20, maybe 3. I'm like, I'm not gonna miss a season anymore. I'm gonna take advantage of those over-the-counter tags in September and try to draw, rifle. Try to hunt elk twice a year. So that's my goal anyway.
yeah, that's well. I'm the same. I mean, well, Adam too. After we did our 2018, we hunted Idaho with the bows, and then it just didn't work out for last year. We were supposed to go do like a western short trip and go after antelope in
Mm-hmm.
South Dakota, but my back was out, and so we had to cancel the trip last minute. But so this year, you know, health permitting and this whole lockdown stuff permitting, we'll be heading back out.
Good.
So the turkeys are just a gateway for us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Just to get things started.
Yeah,
well, it's John quit turkey hunting for a while because, I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up turkey hunting with my dad. I mean, I was little. Back when we started, you it was probably every 2 to 3 years you'd get a tag because there were so few turkeys, and they were all like north of here. And I mean, we didn't see turkeys around our house ever. Now we got flocks of them. I mean, now we just
Yeah.
hunt, you know, 5 miles down the street, here, or not even that. And so, and kill them with the gun. I mean, we got to the point where, I killed a bunch of birds and like, all right, well, and then I end up killing a nice bird with my bow. And, I chased him 2 years with my bow. And then when I got one, I was like, all right. And then had other things come up and I quit for quite a few years.
Elk bugle will put a chill down your spine. But man, I've hunted turkey and I've been pretty close to turkey, and there's nothing. Man, just to hear just a nasty gobble break like a hardwood bottom, it'll send chills down your spine, man. Turkey hunting's fun, and in fact, it's hard for us down here in Arizona because we either have to drive north, or it's really hard to get a tag down where I'm at. So we just don't have the luxury of doing it every year. But
yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of one of these things where it's again that challenge, and so that's they say that there's the parallels between the elk and turkey, and just because it's a visceral experience where you're calling, listening, calling, moving,
Right.
doing whatever. But as we talked about a little bit before the podcast, just in our ramblings, my father-in-law is a great turkey caller, and so trying to learn how to call turkeys and like figure them out, and that chess match is kind of what I like about it is
Right.
that challenge. And I've not killed one with a bow, but that with a gun, maybe it's the amount of birds over here. Maybe I was taught well on how to find and locate and make somewhat kind of turkey noises that make them come to you. But it, I don't know. It seems arrogant to say, well, I could just kill them with a shotgun. It'd be so easy. But
Right.
I mean, I think in the last couple of years we've proved that we can get them in
It's never in the
range.
bag.
We can get them in range. So you talked a little bit about getting into bow hunting. John always has a segment at the end of the show. I can't nudge him or any of this stuff. And last time I asked the question, he's like, "You took my question. I don't say anything all night." And then you take my question.
So my question to all of our listeners, except for one, is what's your archery setup right now? What bow are you shooting?
Yeah. So I've been since 2011. I've been shooting a Bowtech Insanity CPX, 70 pounds. Use a true ball, Fang 4, hinge, jaw release. Shoot Carbon Express, Maxima Reds, and I was shooting nap kill zones for many years with great success because they fly great, they're durable. But that elk I shot in 2017, as a matter of fact, when those wings deployed, it's a rear deployment system, snapped both of those blades off. So when I recovered that arrow, I was like, man, only about 3/4 of an inch actually passed through the vitals of that elk. So I said, never again. So I ended up switching over to kudu points, 125 grains. So that's my bow setup. And then, of course, I run an old Cameron Haynes edition Spot Hog, 7 deadly pins. Haven't made the switch over to a slider quite yet. A lot of my buddies are telling me to do it. But, 7 pins are.
Better off with 7 pins than slider.
It works for me, man. I mean, my setup is literally 10 years old, or 9 years old, and every year I'm like, man, I'm gonna buy a new bow this year, and I can't justify it because it's still shooting well.
I'd say, well, that CPX was a great bow. I mean,
I love it.
that was actually the bow I was going to get the CPXL, the bigger version, and then I think the Bowtech Boss came out, and I wish I would have found the CPXL instead. But I mean, the Boss was a good bow, but just didn't care for the draw set.
Yeah, I mean, with the arrow setup I have, it's perfect for elk. I mean, it's only about 300 feet per second. I'm not a speed demon, but it's hitting with a lot of energy, and out to 50 yards or so, I put it up against anything, So.
Talking about this, not to go down the rabbit hole, but the slider sites. My buddy that's going out to Montana with me, I set him up with a bow last year, and he's like, "What sight?" I'm like, "Well, just get a 5-pin sight and just shoot with it and get used to your pin gaps and stuff like that." And then we put in for our tag this year. He's like, "I think I want to change to a single pin slider." I'm like, "No, well, that's just too much stuff." I'm like, first of all, he hasn't shot since last fall.
Right.
And I'm like, you need to just shoot every day and get used to those 5 pins. I said, because if you go to a slider and say you have it set for 20 or 25, and an elk comes in, and then, they easily, it only takes a few seconds for them to go out 10 yards.
Yep.
And then what? Are you going to guess and, okay, I need to put the pin on the top of his back now, or a little bit higher? Well, that's when you start shooting, you're used to 5 pins. Now if you got 3 pins in the vital, you're good.
Well, in that situation, you're still gap shooting, so moving to the slider just became irrelevant. It seems.
Yeah, and then you only have one pin to deal with, and or we've done this how many times? Like if we go do the tunnel archery challenge, we usually shoot a single pin slider.
Sure.
And then you say you shoot 80 yards, and then you go out to the next one, and it's only 60. Oh, I forgot to move my pin, and next thing you know, it's over its back. Well, I've heard too many horror stories about guys doing that with their sliders on, real animals and blowing a shot. Or that just happened to Joe down in Ohio last year. One of the guys that hunts with a hunting beast ended up sending an arrow right through his horns. because because he had the night before he set his pin at like 40 yards and forgot to switch it back, and monster buck comes in and he shot him right in the horn. So
heartbreaking.
Yeah, lesson learned.
That's right.
Yeah, and it just goes back to whether it's, one of the things that is kind of like a common theme in our podcast is just knowing your equipment. So it doesn't matter if you have the highest end bow or the brand new one. Sometimes, like as John's, kind of alluded to here, that can be a detriment if you're not familiar with it and you don't know, those pin gaps, and you don't remember to move that sight. But if we've talked to enough guys that have, the oldest bow setups ever that kill giant deer, or they're just consistent, but they have a system. And I think that kind of goes right back down to filming or anything like that. Is especially with these new guys that are getting into it, and as we've kind of I guess outlined with Frank and Ernie, it doesn't really even matter your age. You can be new at something, like no matter what, picking it up, and it's just being familiar and getting that to be part of your routine. And I think by using the Tactacams, I think it makes it a pretty easy transition, especially for guys that are new and just starting out, to start to put all those pieces together to try to, like I say, whether you're trying to just review that shot and look at that hit and kind of say, what really happened? Do I got to give him some more time? Or you're trying to put on a full-on production. You can certainly do all that, kind of seamlessly. Is kind of a smaller learning curve, I think, by doing it this way. So, I just we're really looking forward to, like we said, getting into whitetail season and kind of getting out of the tent and getting to kind of utilize some of this stuff. So where can
I'll definitely, not to cut you out, but I'll definitely be using the Tactacams heading out west, because I'm going to be solo for the most part. I'm going to hunt my way out, and like I said, Adam is going to be with Ernie and Frank in Colorado. So definitely the 5.0 on the stabilizer.
Yeah, we got to get you guys some wides here soon too, because those are game changers, man. Telling that story and building those layers. So
yeah, like I said, I've been looking on eBay, I've been looking on Facebook, I've been looking everywhere, and it's like if somebody's got one, they're not giving it up and they're not available, and it's like it's very apparent. So it's like
they're in demand.
So and I, like I said, I think that right there, that wide is what hooked Frank and Ernie, as far as like being able to, and obviously when you're at the shows or everything, like you guys have the best of the best up there as representative of like what you can do. And I think, for the most part, it's pretty much, everybody's capable of doing it with, because these aren't, you're not adjusting the setting. There's only so many settings that you can adjust. So,
that's right.
You're only limited to your creativity. Now you're taking the camera out of it and saying, okay, you've got this. What can we do with it? How can we tell a good story? And that's one of the things that I really like about it. So, really appreciate you coming on and taking the time here, even though it's a, time difference, and everything gets kind of screwy. But yeah, I do appreciate it. Where can everybody follow along? With all of this, for the film through scope, the Tactacams. You'd mentioned some of these different Facebook pages and stuff like that. So where can everybody follow along with that? And if they want to get a hold of you, if they got questions, how do they do that?
Yeah, Tactacam.com. That's our website, guys. We have a lot of footage on there, a lot of how-tos, tutorials for those learning. Facebook, Instagram. We're starting up a YouTube page. So we have a lot of, and plus we got customer service that handle any inquiries you guys have. You have a question about your camera or you want to know about it, give us a call. Somebody's going to answer. We're going to take care of you. We're going to make sure that you're good to go and you have a great experience with Tactacam. So
awesome. Well, I think that's kind of all we got for this evening. So, like I said, I just appreciate you taking the time with us, and we're looking forward to big things to come.
Yeah, I look forward to it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.